This slide is all about EA versus CSP. Last year, we've seen the modern commerce solution being implemented by all resellers. Initially, this was quite a hassle for a lot of clients and partners as well. So there was a lot of pressure on that to implement. And we've seen some changes within the pricing models as well for CSP. This is something I will highlight later on, but first, the main characteristics and differences between the EA and the CSP. So programmatically, an enterprise agreement is always a 3 years agreement, where with CSP, you can choose a monthly, a 1 year, or a 3 year agreement. So we've seen in the recent price changes that Microsoft is now pushing all clients to yearly commits in CSP because they want more revenue committed from you as a client, and the monthly basis SKUs are too much of a hassle for them. So we've seen that the monthly SKUs in the commercial licensing platform have been increased by approximately 20%. So there's quite a price increase for committing to a monthly SKU. So that had a lot of impact for also our clients as well. So we've spent quite some time on that, and we don't think that's a positive change because we feel that the monthly basis is what a subscription is all about. You have a subscription for a month, and then you're able to change it. And in this way, a subscription is not really a subscription, but just a commercial model to pushing clients into committing. Minimum requirement for an EA is 500 users. So we've seen Microsoft deviate from that when it suits them. For instance, we have seen in the hospital market that they recently announced to lower that to 250 again. But what we see in general is the tendency it will be uplifted to, in the future, we think approximately 2,400. Why 2,400? Because we think the level A client base for them is too much of an hassle for them. We see more and more that with the Microsoft approach, we see they are pushing towards the partners. So we think that CSP will be the preferred contract option from the Microsoft perspective towards the coming years. And maybe even in July, we will see some new announcements where they will uplift the EA base level, probably changing. So something we are anticipate on, and you should also be very aware of that as a client, that if you are around the 500 to 1,000 user level, that you should be aware that the enterprise agreement platform could disappear when time moves along. Within the EA, you have a possibility to amend. You have a very set structure with an MBSA, which reflects for the Microsoft Businesses and Services Agreement. You have an enterprise agreement and enrollment. You have a really mature contract in place. With CSP, that's different. You agree to the terms of your partner, and with the CSP terms of Microsoft. So in that way, you will, it will be a very easy one-pager, but less, legal options within the CSP. When it comes to support, CSP is mainly driven by the partner. So there's no option where you have Microsoft involved there. In practice, we do see that Microsoft is involved if you are, for instance, if you heard the B case, and then you get upgraded, and then you get within the Microsoft organization. But the initial support should be done by the partner. That's different within the EA. You have a direct relationship from a contractual and invoicing perspective. So Microsoft will help you there. And there's no wrong and right. It's just a choice that you have as a client. As it comes for pricing, within the enterprise agreements, there's a direct model often. Sometimes with governmental organizations like municipalities and other governmental organizations in Europe, there is an indirect EA model where the invoicing is done by the partner. But I think 95% of all enterprise agreements are done by Microsoft itself. Therefore, you are leading the negotiation with Microsoft, often leading to more flexibility. If you know which buttons to push, it's often quite easy to do that. Where with CSP, you are negotiating with your partner. So the partner is determining the price. They have their initial buying. They have a kickback from Microsoft, and that determines the price. You do have different tiers within the partner. So you have a tier 1 partner, tier 2 partner. They have different pricing, different negotiations with Microsoft. So it could be very beneficial to run a quote through different partners there as well, to see what it does with the price. Because in the end, CSP is more or less just delivering the license. So very competitive market and worthwhile to zoom in on that. Another disadvantage of CSP is flexible pricing. So we've seen, of course, now with the recent price changes that, we think will follow up more often after each other than it used to be. Now with the inflation going on in the world, CSP is monthly based. So Microsoft can change the price whenever they want to. Within the enterprise agreement, you are making a fixed price agreement for the term of 3 years. So you have some kind of certainty on which amount to spend in the coming 3 years. So that's, we think, a pro of the EA. And then partner incentives, also very interesting always to see what kind of fees goes through to the back end. We always try to provide clarity on that topic in our engagements. Within the enterprise agreement, there is a back end rebate where you don't have any visibility on as a client. And within CSP, it's very clear. You are paying your margin, and there is a rebate from depending on the type of product you buy. But there is usually a lot of to negotiate with the partner, where within the enterprise agreement, the fees are more limited, and it's often a bit difficult to negotiate that back from your partner. When it comes to license management, VLC and the M365 portal for the enterprise agreement. And within the CSP, you're often relying on the partner's portal. And in addition of that, of course, the M365 portal, where you have all your stuff in place. And a good thing to emphasize that it is not, you should pick the one or the other. You can use both programs alongside, and it could actually be quite beneficial to have some kind of flexibility in that. For instance, if you are an aviation company having a lot of people on board in the summer because of the high season, it could be beneficial to license those extra users you have in the summertime through a monthly CSP option, where they are just in for 3 months, and then you can just decrease it back again. So for clients with a lot of flexibility required, could be a very beneficial option. So good to keep that in mind.
And how would you look at that from a pricing increase perspective, if you have that flexibility in CSP alongside the EA?
Yeah, good question. So having said that, CSP, even though if you get price increases, you usually need it for like 1 to 3 months. So even though if you have a price increase of 20-25%, I think there's still more benefit in licensing it for a short term in 1 or 2 months, instead of committing to a whole year in your enterprise agreement. So I think that's the main advantage of choosing the monthly SKU in CSP. But there's always, and you actually should calculate that per case, but there's always a point where you should consider, well, if it's more than 6 months, then it probably makes more sense to commit for a whole year in your EA. But always good to consider that, depending on the type of client and business they are in.
And do you think that more companies will now switch to the CSP program as you have longer term commitments there?
Most definitely, because we've seen that Microsoft is changing the negotiation strategy for clients that are already deployed in the cloud. Microsoft is becoming more and more dominant, and even, I would say, monopolistic in their approach in the negotiation. So 9 out of 10 times, if you don't have done your homework in an EA renewal negotiation, they will probably say, well, we don't give you any discount at all. There are no commercial possibilities. Thank you for your business, but no discount. And for clients that are pushed in that mode, I think CSP could be very beneficial, because then you will have a negotiation with your partner, and probably your partner will be more willing to give you some discount of his margin than Microsoft is. So I would say we anticipate that the coming year will be quite substantial when it comes to clients that are deployed in the cloud moving to CSP. I think that especially within level A, that will be the case. Yeah.
Potentially level B as well.
I think potentially level B as well, because depending on how Microsoft is operating, and if there's any momentum in your negotiation to put demands on the table, then you have the possibility to negotiate. But if there's no room, and we've seen this very recent with some level B clients as well, where Microsoft is just saying, well, thank you for your business, thank you for deploying M365 E5. You've been given a great royal discount, but now there's no possibility anymore. No more discount for you, dear client. Thank you for your business. And then we feel you should really consider CSP, and also moving it back to other countries. Be very aggressive in your approach there, because in the long term, I think it will bite back to Microsoft. I don't think it will.
It's pretty interesting as a development, because it almost feels like Microsoft is doing this on purpose.
Yeah, but I think so. I think they are doing this on purpose. I think the whole price increase, and especially the selection of the things they are increasing and not increasing. So, for instance, they haven't touched the M365 E5 price increase, and that's very interesting, because they've done it for E1, they've done it for E3, but not for E5. And my guess on that would be that they just want to have a smaller gap between the E3, E1, and E5 suites. So they're just pushing more and more clients towards the E5 offering, maybe with a small discount. But once you're deployed, you're toast, because they will not give you a discount in the next renewal, no matter what they promise off the table. We've seen a lot of clients where they were just promising discounts. Well, we're Microsoft, we're a friendly club. We will just give you probably the same discount again in the next renewal. But then your negotiation does not go too well, you are deployed, then you have an issue. And we've seen that too many times now the past few months. So again, also level B clients could be very interesting again. Yeah. Moving on to the next slide. EA versus CSP conclusion. Why you should go choose EA over CSP? Well, the biggest ask is, besides the commercial part and the price part, is where do you want your support from? Because we see 9 out of 10 times that the partners are giving excellent support when it comes to Microsoft, even better than the local subsidiary in some cases, depending on the kind of topic it goes around. If you have a very large dynamic implementation, it's always good to have some Microsoft involvement on that. But the online services, for instance, for Office 365, are becoming mainstream, and we see that the partners have been making a great step when it comes to knowledge and deployment in the Netherlands. So really should consider having that conversation with your partner as well. There are a lot of good partners out there who are willing to be more flexible and more customer driven than Microsoft itself. So that's really the main question. And then, having said that, from the price and commercial perspective, and having, just seeing that as a fact that Microsoft is becoming more and more dominant and arrogant, you should really consider your options. So maybe not a full cloud strategy, but it could also be that in your case, you can combine the licensing programs with your specific demands. We've seen very recently that clients moving on to new technology, but not per definition in the cloud. So they've made the decision just to buy the latest version of Office, buy second-hand licensing and adding some cloud SKUs to it. And that really helped them in their cloud journey. And then you also are having a better negotiation conversation with Microsoft. So more and more, I do get the feeling that too many clients are focused on the M365 E5 suite, where other options help you in your cloud journey as well. The main benefit of the EA are the programmatic options. So it can be very favorable to choose for an EA if you are using the From as HQ. So for clients that are not deployed in the cloud, that's not the case. But if you are a very faithful Microsoft client, it could be that you are eligible for From as A discount, and that by its own gives a programmatic discount approximately 15%. So it could be very beneficial to choose for that. Also in the EA, you have more options to customize. You can go for profiling. Do not choose the one size fits all option. For instance, going back to the aviation companies again, where you could have a call center in the summertime for your travelers. You can choose a specific F1, F3 license for that, depending on your requirements. You do have such options in the EA if you negotiate that efficiently. And yeah, of course, discount within the EA you can negotiate. Within CSP, it's a little bit more different. Price locks on the EA, very, very, very good thing nowadays with all the price increases coming up and the inflation. But you have limited flexibility. So there we would suggest to put as many SKUs on the CPS as possible nowadays, because if you have your price locked, then you at least know that you're not going to pay more for that specific SKU. Yeah, and then if you are an EA client as well, CSP, could that something be for us? Always have the discussion with your partner and make an assessment if it fits your case. We've seen many scenarios where it could be beneficial to combine both licensing options. Nothing wrong with that. Microsoft, for larger clients, does not recommend it because, yeah, it will probably cost them revenue. Often Microsoft is not aware what CSP is costing. That might sound strange, but it's actually the case. They don't know what the revenue is that will come in. So that also could benefit in your negotiation. So what we usually do is always, if we make a scenario, we always check it. Could this be beneficial in CSP? And sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. And it doesn't hurt to compare. But especially all level A and B clients should consider it and at least make the calculation and see what the impact for them is. Yeah, handing back to Floris then for the next slide.